All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulihi Sayyidina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ba'd. We continue talking about what to do, what the Aqidah teaches us with regards to our relationship to the sovereign Muslim government. And so we were talking about Malik and a number of other Imams. Their position was that patience with 100 years of tyranny is better than 1 hour of chaos, because in an hour of chaos, irreparable and very painful damage happens. And it's kind of like, for example, like, if you have two cars, you have a car and your spouse has a car. If your spouse hits your car or you hit your spouse's car, it's worse than a regular car accident because you have to pay the damage from both sides. When Muslims fight with each other, that's kind of how it is. And so, in general, this Aqidah is based on the one that's before, that we, in general, don't consider violent coercion to be a lawful method of treating one another, and it's also not our preferred method of conducting politics. Basically, is what's being said here. Even if there's some zulm that happens, the patience with that zulm is less zulm than actually enacting violence on other people, which ends up in causing a greater transgression. And so Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala continues to say, وَلَا نَنْزَعُ يَدًا مِّن طَاعَتِهِمْ. And not only do we not consider armed rebellion and insurrection against them to be impermissible, we also don't hold our hands back from their obedience. وَنَرَى طَاعَتَهُمْ مِنْ طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ فَرِيضَةً. And we consider their obedience to be the obedience of Allah. Mighty and majestic is He, and we consider that to be an obligation. مَا لَمْ يَأْمُرُوا بِالْمَعْصِيَةِ. As long as they don't command to the haram. So try to understand this. You have tyrannical government. It's still wajib to listen to what they say as long as what they say is not haram. So if you have tyrannical government that says that, whatever, we're going to have a war and we're going to fight and kill innocent people. You're not allowed to, forget about obliged to, you're not even allowed to participate in that war. You're not even allowed to kill innocent people. You're not allowed to support it with your speech, with your action, with anything. However, this is not an excuse for you to be like, I'm going to blow the next stop sign I see and not stop at red lights now because the government's tyrannical. You understand what I'm saying? This should be common sense with people, but it's not. That's the problem with ISIS, right? Look, tyrannical government. A, because they're tyrannical, they're kafirs. B, because whoever follows them because of that, they're also kafirs. And C, because of that, we're not going to obey anything at all. This is stupidity. This is chaos. You understand what I'm saying? So even the Deen teaches us, even if the government is tyrannical, you're still obliged to obey them and those things that they command that are not haram. This also has a natural set of limits. What is the natural set of limits? It's that when the government in a Muslim country disavows Islam, then the social contract between them and between the citizens is dissolved. There's no obligation either way anymore. Until that point, there's quite a bit of tyranny that can happen. Until then, it should be dealt with through non-violent means, through disobedience of haram commands. And this is, you think that, there are some people who are like, oh, look, especially when the Arab Spring happened, there was a lot of people with big mouths that shot their big mouths off. And they said, oh, look, the Sunni Aqidah encourages tyranny, and the Sunni Aqidah is why Muslim countries are ruled so poorly. And I'm glad we finally had our big rebellion and threw off Sunni Aqidah's tyranny. It was wrong. I've actually heard this from people in North America, some people who are actually relatively well respected. And it bothered me because they're wrong. And look at the Arab Spring. Which country from the Arab Spring countries are better off than they were from before? Any of them? Absolutely none of them. That's, you could say that's your opinion. In general, I agree that politics is opinion. There's not right and wrong. It's just you have your opinion, I have my opinion. I agree with that in general. However, I've met people who are actually part of the Free Syrian Army and part of the Free Syrian government. They themselves, they say, يعني ربما كان خطأ. Maybe it was a mistake. I've heard Libyans say that life was better under Gaddafi. I've heard Tunisians say it was better from before. I've heard people say these things before. Egyptians say these things. This is unfortunately a reality. And those same people who are saying, oh look, the zulm system and the zulm system of the Ahlus Sunnah and blah blah blah, you don't even hear them speaking out against governments anymore. Why? Because when the fighting has happened, you have a chance of winning. Now if you speak out, you're going straight to jail. So those people who are brave to speak against the ways of the Sunnah, they're cowards in front of tyrants. Whereas our ulama were not cowards in front of tyrants. Do you think that the ulama always used to lick the boot of the ruler? They never did. They never did. They believed in this aqidah and they practiced it. The history is replete with ulama who spoke the haqq, and they dealt with the consequences as well. The first part of the ummah, the middle part of the ummah, and the last part of the ummah is replete with examples of this. I wish I had more time. This is should be a completely, this 2 points should be a completely separate, There are, you mentioned a country, there are ulama from that country and from every country that speak the haqq. They're in jail right now. But they didn't stop from speaking the haqq. They're not telling people go pick up a gun and start shooting police officers, but they did speak the haqq. They do speak the haqq. They're in jail right now, many of them. So the idea is this: is that the tyranny, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the ulama from that time until this time, they spoke up against it. However, at the same time, look, Sayyidina al-Hasan radiallahu anhu, the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu literally fought his father for the caliphate. After his father was assassinated, Sayyidina al-Hasan radiallahu anhu, he said, look, my father, his rank was higher than yours amongst the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and he had the legitimate right to the caliphate. He said, as far as I'm concerned, I have, what's my rank? He says, I make peace with you. The people of Kufa are weird people. They're seditious people. They're people who they give you their word and then they break it. So he gathered, he knows them, because they were also not good to his father either. They were not good to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. So he gathered them together, and they said, we want to make you our new Amir. So he says, okay, take your oath of allegiance. They took the oath of allegiance. He goes, you promise that you'll follow me whatever I do? They said, we're with you 100%. He says, good. Go send a messenger to Damascus, tell Sayyidina Muawiyah that I give the caliphate to him and our fight is over. This is a prophecy of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said when Sayyidina al-Hasan was a little boy, he said, this son of mine is a sayyid, he's a leader. And one day Allah will use him in order to make islah, to rectify between two great parties of my ummah. And so he did it. The Kufans are like, what is this? You want to make peace, we want to fight. He's like, didn't you promise that you would follow me whatever I say? They're like, yeah, I guess we kind of did. So what happened, Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, also look at his karama, look at his generosity and his nobility. He sent a scribe with a blank paper with his seal on it. Say, you write whatever terms you want, and from my side, it's there. Sayyidina al-Hasan radiallahu anhu says, I don't want anything from you. He said, I don't want anything from you. He said, just give me one guarantee that you won't persecute my family and you won't persecute the followers of my father. And so the negotiator, Sayyidina Muawiyah, sent to Kufa. He was like himself embarrassed, like, how can I go back and there's like no terms for the treaty at all. He himself surreptitiously wrote into it that you have to give the tribute from such and such province and you have to give this position, that position. He himself wrote it. Sayyidina al-Hasan didn't tell him anything. And so what happened is, not only did Sayyidina al-Hasan radiallahu anhu make peace with him, literally his father fought him. Not only did he make peace with him, he actually went out jihad fi sabilillah under the armies commanded by Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Not just once, twice. Once to Khurasan and once in North Africa. Why? Even if you don't agree with the leader about their politics or their policy, you don't hold your hand back from doing what's right for the society, regardless. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu khair was a great person, and he was a sahabi, he was a companion of the Messenger of Allah. There's an example even beyond that. His son Yazid, who was a corrupt person. He's probably the most hated person from the history of Islam. He assassinated the the grandson, Sayyidina al-Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, and he sacked Medina, he sacked Makkah Mukarramah, he literally set the catapults on Makkah Mukarramah and damaged the Kaaba. He was not a good person by any stretch of the imagination, and the ulama don't have nice things to say about him. Some of them said that he was not even a Muslim, but the madhab of tahqiq is that they leave this issue alone because he didn't openly say that he doesn't believe in the deen, so they considered him to be a sinner of the worst degree. Yazid, during his lifetime, they sent an army to siege Constantinople. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said in a hadith that's narrated by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, لَتُفْتَحَنَّ الْقُسْطَنْطِنِيَّةُ فَلَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ أَمِيرُهَا وَلَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشُ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشُ. It says one day Constantinople will be conquered. Istanbul, they give the name Istanbul because of Turkish nationalism. Otherwise, the religious people, they prefer the name Constantinople because Constantinia is the name that the Prophet ﷺ used for that city. That one day this Constantinople will be conquered. And what a wonderful commander will the commander be, and what a wonderful army will that army be. The Sahaba themselves, radiallahu anhum, they were avid that they should be the ones that the Prophet ﷺ said these words about. So even under Yazid, an army went to go and siege Constantinople. And Sahaba, even though Yazid, they all hated him. They all hated him. None of them had anything good to say about him at all. Still, they joined that army. Why? Because they considered him to be a tyrant. But what? He was not this thing was not an evil deed. This thing was an act of righteousness and piety. So they didn't shrink back. Why? Because this is what the Prophet ﷺ taught them. This Aqidah, we believe in it. We believe in it and we practice it and it benefits us. This is why. Why do you think Sayyidina Abu Ayyub al-Ansari is buried in Constantinople? He went out jihad fi sabilillah under the banner of Yazid, imagine, of all people. And he was shaheed in the path of Allah Ta'ala, and he was buried there, as were a number of the companions of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because what? Just because Yazid was not a good person doesn't mean that they hold their hands back from the obedience of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. The work always goes on. If you don't like the government, that's a separate issue, but the work always goes on. You don't use that as an excuse to shrink back from doing what's right. And on the flip side, if they tell you to do what's wrong, you can't be like, oh, look, it's the government, so that's why I'm going to do it. I'm going to join the police force and beat people up without right and, destroy their homes and all this other, racism and weird things that happen in a lot of Muslim majority countries. You're not allowed to participate in any of those things. The Aqidah does not give you a pass for them. Even though the corrupt scholars, sellout scholars of those countries will claim that that's what the Sunni Aqidah teaches you. That's not what the Sunni Aqidah teaches you. It says right here very clearly, مَا لَمْ يَأْمُرُوا بِالْمَعْصِيَةِ. You have to obey them as long as they don't command to something that's haram. You're not allowed to participate in the haram, civil disobedience. And on top of that, violence is what's haram. Sedition and violence, insurrection. Speaking the truth is always the job of the ulama. Izz ibn Abdul Salam, Sultan al-Ulama, he was the Mufti of Halab. He was a great scholar of Halab, the Aleppo, the city in Syria. Allah Ta'ala free it and all the rest of Sham from the clutches of evil people. The ruler of Halab at that time himself was an evil man. He made a bargain with the Crusaders that if you help me to take over Damascus, I'll leave you to take Jerusalem. Izz ibn Abdul Salam, he said from the mimbar in the Jami' Masjid of Aleppo, he said, this man by saying that I'm going to give Jerusalem to the kuffar, this man himself has left Islam. And your bay'ah with him is null and void. The Sultan said, I'm going to kill you for this. And so he surrounded the masjid with his soldiers. They were going to kill him. The people themselves said, if you try to get to him, you have to get through us. And so there was a standoff. And what happened was that they came to a solution or a compromise that Izz ibn Abdul Salam has to leave Aleppo and he cannot come back. So he went and he immigrated to Egypt. That's where he lived the rest of the days of his life. The ruler of Egypt, Saifuddin Qutuz, he was a Turkic slave king and a great man of this ummah. He said that you come and live in Egypt And Ibn Abdus Salam said, no, I'm not going to be your mouthpiece and your tool. He said, I won't come to Egypt unless you allow me that I can say whatever I want and I can do whatever I want and you're not going to stop me. He said, marhaban, you're more than welcome. And so they used to call him Sultan al-Ulama, one because of his honor amongst the ulama, but also because he actually literally had the authority, the sovereign authority of the government as a condition of his coming to Egypt. And between Ibn Abdus Salam, Saifuddin Qutuz, they raised the army, the first army that beat the Mongols in the battlefield. All the way from Mongolia to Egypt, they came undefeated. They raised the first army that beat the Mongols in the battlefield, the Battle of Ain Jalut. They beat them so badly, they decimated their army, they routed it, and the general that commanded it, they sent his head on a plate to Halaku. To the emperor of the Mongols to tell them that don't try this nonsense with us. This is the history of Islam. Just because you're not allowed to pick up a gun and start shooting people doesn't mean that you're tongue tied. You have to speak the haqq always. You have to speak the haqq always. It's not easy. The job of the ulama is to speak the haqq, and the ones who speak the haqq, the job of the awam is to support them. So don't just be like, oh, how come the ulama are like, they don't say anything, they're all sellouts. No. What have you done to support them? Or are you just happy to see them go to jail and be like, oh wow, Maulana is a very pious guy? Those are people who don't deserve to have good ulama. Allah Ta'ala will take them away. And then you'll get what you deserve. Then we'll all get what we deserve. We have to also stick up for them. Look, Ibn Abdus Salam, didn't the people stand in front of the army of the Sultan and say, you cannot touch him unless you want to go through us? So don't expect someone else to make sacrifice until you yourself also don't want to make sacrifice. When we all work together as a ummah, then things happen. When it's just like, oh yeah, there's some holy man who's going to read Ayatul Kursi and like shoot light out of his nostrils and solve everything for me, and I just sit at home watch Netflix, right? It doesn't work that way. The system, it works when we're all participating in it. There's barakah when we're all participating in it. Which is, by the way, anyway, khair, we'll talk about that later. I can't tell you all my secrets at once. So he says that, and we pray for them. We pray for their rectification and for their success and for their good state. Meaning what? If they're bad people, pray that Allah Ta'ala guide them. The good things that they're doing, pray that Allah make them successful. This is a very pragmatic point. Why? Imagine someone's like, oh, our ruler's so horrible. I hope lightning strikes him. Right, when things happen that make the government out of whack, then the enemies of the state will choose that time to attack and mess with you. So think about the state like a bus, and all the people are riding on the bus, and the ruler is like the driver. Okay, what if the ruler is an annoying person? Everyone's ridden on a bus with an annoying bus driver, especially people who take public transport in the Muslim world. Those are some of the most annoying people in the world. Conductor, these people are crazy, right? So sometimes the bus driver is smoking cigarette and he's driving like an idiot and he's honking all the time and he's blasting dumb music and just being the most annoying person possible. Okay? Granted, we all agree the person's annoying. What are we going to do? Right? You're driving through a mountain pass and then someone's like, this bus driver is a very bad person. Let's kill him. While he's driving the bus, are you an idiot? Wait for him to park, then we'll deal with it. We laugh about it. It's a very practical matter. Sometimes you get upset at someone and you're like, okay, let's kill him. You killed him now, what are we going to do now? Saddam, who here likes Saddam? Raise your hand. Allah have mercy on him. Why? Because he died on Iman. But we don't idealize or have any... I don't know about you guys. I don't think he was a very good person, as exemplar. He said La ilaha illallah and left this world. I hope Allah forgives him. Why? Because if Allah forgives Saddam, then, I have a chance too, right? But it's not like I'm gassing courage, no big deal, right? By any objective standards, he was a pretty crazy guy. You look at the videos of stuff that he did. He came to power, he gave a speech in parliament, and he just read off a list of names. And one by one, the soldiers are taking him out back and shooting them. And everybody's scared to death. This guy was crazy. He came in crazy and he went out he said La ilaha illallah before he died. I'll give him that. Okay? He's gone now. Is Iraq any better off? Absolutely not. Why? Because they shot the bus driver in the middle of the mountain while the bus was driving through the mountain pass. And it's chaos. It's complete chaos. The people who hate Saddam the most, they're all we miss Saddam. He was crazy, he killed people, and he was a harsh guy, but at least, you know, you could walk down the street in Iraq without getting like killed by some sectarian gang or like IED, or, you know, the roads were paved, people were going to university. Stuff was still working in those days. Now nothing works. Now the rich and elites like live in the green zone and everybody else is dying. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that we like it. It doesn't mean that we like tyranny. Anybody who likes tyranny, he also has an Aqidah problem. Right? He'll mention this. We're going to skip to the next point. He said, وَنُحِبُّ أَهْلَ الْعَدْلِ وَالْأَمَانَ وَنُبْغِضُ أَهْلَ الْجَوْرِ وَالْخِيَانَةِ. We love the people of justice and the people of, meaning not justice as an ideal, but the people who at minimum keep justice. And the people of amana, the people who are trustworthy, that are true to their word. And we hate the people of tyranny, and we hate the people of treachery, like people who lie and cheat in order to get ahead. We hate those people. Whoever loves a tyrant, that person themselves has an Aqidah problem. And whoever calls the people to the love of tyrants, that person is calling people to the hellfire. But that being said, we've accepted that now. Just don't shoot the bus driver while he's driving through the mountain pass. It's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the situation. The situation got as bad as it is through a bunch of like really long processes of decay in society, and the situation is not going to be fixed except for through making islah, through long processes of reformation, not through like you shoot somebody. Khalas, think of everybody. Don't say anything out loud because it's going to be a waste of time. Think of in your head what's the Muslim country you think is the most screwed up. Okay, khalas. Now we just shot the ruler, the king, president, prime minister, prince, emir, whatever. We shot him. He's dead. Now how is it going to get better? Who's going to replace him? Sometimes the crown prince is, not to make any specific reference, but sometimes the crown prince is, Salah himself, crazier than the king. How many people are you going to kill? Rather than killing everybody, think about how will we put the pieces of this puzzle back together. That's what the Nabawi fikr is. That's how the fikr of the Prophet ﷺ was. Not that let's go through and kill everybody. He could have done that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Abu Sufyan is there, Ikrimah is there, so all these people, he could have just like, Makkah Mukarramah, you guys are all crazy. You fought me for the last 20 years. You all deserve to die. They deserve to die. They didn't deserve forgiveness. The forgiveness was the fadl of Allah. Allah, let's just kill everybody. Cleanse Makkah Mukarramah from the filth of the mushrikeen, and that's it. He could have done it if he wanted to. Who here would have like shed a tear and say, oh my God, all these mushrikeen, why did he kill them? Nobody. Everybody like, yeah, awesome. We would have made a movie about it, right? But that's not how the Anbiya alayhimus salam, they can see the things that normal people cannot see. And that's why we love them in a way we don't love other people. There are other people who are haters. That's what goes through their mind. Let's just kill everybody. Those people you don't want to. Do you want to follow their path, or you want to follow the path of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So yes, you oppose them in word, and you don't support them in bad deeds, and you don't love them, and you speak out. You speak out. You say the truth. وَنَتَّبِعُ السُّنَّةَ وَالْجَمَاعَةَ وَنَجْتَنِبُ الشُّذُوذَ وَالْخِلَافَ وَالْفُرْقَةَ. We follow the sunnah and the jama'ah. We define those things earlier on in the dars, and we stay away from shudud, from isolated and weird opinions. So whoever crazy guy makes YouTube videos, while he's high, and he tells you all kind of dumb opinions that none of the ulama ever said to you because they read them in some weird screwball book, don't watch his videos. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man shadda shudda fin nar." Right? Shadh in the Arabic language, it means something like weird. It's like unique, but in a bad way. Like you see someone walk in with like a pink mohawk, you're like, that's weird. That's unique, right? It means unique in a bad way. The one who wants to be shadh, the one who wants to be weird like that person will be strange in the sense that all the other believers will be in Jannah, that person will be strange because they're in the fire. Well, khilaf, and we stay away from endless and intractable difference of opinion. That one Maulvi Sahib whose entire life is consumed with destroying the evil of saying Ameen out loud or saying Ameen quietly or whatever, or saying Bismillah before you say the Fatiha out loud, or saying it quietly or not saying it at all. Those people, there is not khair in them. These are differences of opinion. One Imam has their opinion, the other one has their, just let it go. You can pick one if you want. You say this one makes more sense to me, I'm going to practice this one. You can't tell me not to. That's fine. But you don't have to make that into your whole life. We stay away from that type of thinking. وَالْفُرْقَةِ, and we stay away from I'm right, you're wrong. Meaning what? There is a group which is I'm right, you're wrong. That's the Ahlus Sunnah Wal Jamah. Anything within the circle of the Sunnah, we don't say, oh look, only the Malikis are on guidance, everybody else is wrong. No, what do we say? We say we're right, but it's possible that we're wrong. You guys are all wrong, but maybe you're right. I mean, like, it's possible. But me and Lumumba, we right. Mashallah. Right? What is that? That's like, this makes more sense to me. It's not saying like, did you see me like, oh, astaghfirullah, man, I'm not going to pray behind Mawli Nabil because he's not a Maliki. No, let it go, man. Even if you disagree with it, these things, because they're part of the Ahlus Sunnah Wal Jamah, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? The Ummah will break up into 72 different groups. Each of them will say that we're the right one. And he said all of them will be in the hellfire except for what? Ma alayhi ana wa ashabi. The one that myself and my companions are on. Meaning the Ahlus Sunnah Wal Jamah. Inside that circle, all of our differences, we say that they're probabilistic, not certain. So we tolerate one another. At least we should. وَنُقُولُ اللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ فِي مَا اشْتَبَهَ عَلَيْنَا عِلْمُهُ. And the things that are not 100% certain, we say Allah knows best about them. Are you supposed to say the Ameen out loud? Are you supposed to say it quietly? So, no, I'm 100% certain you're supposed to say it quietly. Well, what about the companions of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who said it out loud? No, 100% say we should say it out loud. What about those companions of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that said it quietly? You should have enough humility to know that maybe it's not a 100% issue. Maybe there's something I didn't understand about it. So what do you say? Except for haqq and batil, you say Allahu A'lam. Someone asks you how many gods are there? You say one, and that's it. Should you say Ameen out loud or quietly? Maybe you should say it quietly, but Allah knows best. Maybe you should say it out loud. Allah knows best. Bas, khatam. This is part of our Aqidah. Those things that are not like super 100% like Iman Kufr issues, you say Allah knows best. Don't walk around arrogantly. Angel Jibreel didn't give the message to you. You're not ma'soom. I'm not ma'soom. That's only the Prophet ﷺ. You're not, this is an important point, you're not the representative of Allah. Who is the representative of Allah? Rasulullah ﷺ is the representative of Allah. You're not even the representative of the Prophet ﷺ. Who is? The Sahaba is. We're like down like 40 generations down the chain, man. We're like, there's like a CEO on like the 80th floor. We're like mopping the basement. And we're lucky to be there, alhamdulillah. We're lucky to be there, alhamdulillah. There are many people out in the cold. وَنَرَى الْمَسْحَ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ فِي السَّفَرِ وَالْحَضَرِ كَمَا جَاءَ فِي الْأَثَرِ. And we consider wiping over leather hide foot gear to be a valid form of wudu, both while traveling and while at home, just as is transmitted by the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. One might wonder, why is this in a book of Aqidah? The simple answer is because it's so widely transmitted from the Prophet ﷺ that to believe its validity is become part of our Aqidah. Even if you never wipe over khufs ever in your life. Now, does this refer to socks? No, it refers to khufs. Socks, at the best you can say it's a difference of opinion. The preponderant opinion of the 3 out of the 4 madhabs is, the only opinion I should say 3 out of the 4 madhabs is not valid. I'm told by the Hanbali Mashayikh that this is an opinion of their madhab that it's valid to wipe over socks. I personally don't agree with that opinion, but again, what do we say? Allah knows best, right? So don't throw a beat down if you see someone wiping over their socks. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. I wouldn't do it if I were you, but if you don't want to do it, don't do it, but don't be like, oh, this guy, I'm not going to talk to him anymore or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? They're still your brother. They're still Muslims. They're following an opinion. This is a long discussion. By the way, especially for those of you who studied in madrasa, it's hard to let go of your opinion. It's so hard. You don't know how much it's killing me to say all this right now. But if I want to teach it to you, then I have to also first practice it first myself, I just want to be like, no, don't wipe over your socks because this is killing me. But what are you going to do? This is our Aqidah. The Aqidah, do you understand how fiqh will never be a platform for the unity of the Ummah? Only Aqidah can be. So, the wiping over socks not part of our Aqidah. Wiping over the khufs, they're made out of hide. The validity of wiping over the khufs when you put your feet into them with wudu, that validity with certain other details as well that you can learn from your fiqh teacher. That's valid as a point of aqidah. والحج والجهاد فرضان ماضيان مع أولي الأمر من أئمة المسلمين برهم وفاجرهم إلى قيام الساعة لا يبطلهما شيء ولا ينقضهما. Hajj and jihad. Jihad, what we mean by jihad here is what? The armed struggle in the path of Allah Ta'ala so that the word of Allah can be made supreme or in defense of the Muslim homeland. These two things are both an obligation and they will be valid until the Day of Judgment. There's no boycott Hajj. Boycott Hajj is actually kufr. I don't care if you like the Saudi government or you don't like the Saudi government. Okay, they can be weasels. They can be the most horrible people in the world. Has nothing to do with Hajj. Hajj is the deen of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, if you want to boycott and whatever, then go stay in a cheap hotel. Hajj is you still have to do Hajj. And if you don't want to, or if you already done it, then don't go. But don't tell people to boycott it. It's still not just an obligation on individuals, it's an obligation on the ummah that Hajj has to happen every year. Whoever says boycott Hajj, this is kufr. Again, we're not saying that you make takfir of everybody on Facebook, because people spread these dumb things out of their ignorance. But what I'm saying is that the meaning of it is kufr. Allah Ta'ala has, and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam have mandated that Hajj happens every year. Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, he opposed the government of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas. Still went to Hajj. And he still gave fatwa that you have to read the salat behind the imams that they set forth, even if they're disgusting people. This is our deen. This is the ulama believed this, they practiced it. This is why, because the commandment of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine this. That after the Hajjaj bin Yusuf sieged Makkah Mukarramah, and he also set the catapults on the Kaaba to the point where they had to break it down and rebuild it because it was so damaged. This is completely haram, to sacrilege the haram like that. The first year after that, Marwan bin Abdul Malik, he told Abdullah bin Umar, the companion of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Hajj will happen this year, you be the Imam of the Hajj. What did he say? You're crazy? No, even though he was crazy. But what did they do? It's Hajj, it has to happen every year, so they went. That Hajj, Hajjaj bin Yusuf actually assassinated him, he killed him. And how did he kill him? He had one of his henchmen basically take a spear, the edge, the blade of which was poisoned, and make it look like an accident, like he tripped and he cut him with the spear and the poison poisoned him. And so when Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu was dying, Hajjaj came to visit him to fake I came to see how you're doing, right? And so he's like, how are you? It's a hadith of Bukhari. So how are you doing? And Abdullah bin Umar asked him, like, why are you asking? You're the one who killed me. And Hajjaj started to get angry. He was a man who couldn't control his anger. He started to get so angry, like when he gets angry, he starts killing people, right? So he goes, what do you mean? He goes, you're the chief of the police of the Amir al-Mu'mineen. You should have made sure that nobody brings weapons with them to Hajj. And then he saved face, so he calmed down again, right? But like these are real bad people. These are not great people. These are not like, no one's going to be like Abdul Malik bin Marwan. I want my kid to grow up to be like that. Hajjaj bin Yusuf, whatever. But Hajj is Hajj. It goes on every year. The same thing with jihad fi sabilillah. The Prophet ﷺ said that jihad is al-jihadu madin hatta taqumu as-sa'ah. Jihad will be an obligation on this ummah until Yawm al-Qiyamah. There will never be a time in which there will be so much justice that there will be no struggle that's needed anymore in the world. Nor will there ever be a time that there will be so much zulm that the Muslims will be so weak and helpless that they're not going to be able to stand for themselves. So, Shaykh, does this mean I should go to XYZ country? Look, this is a Aqidah dars. I'm not telling you to go fight anywhere. This is a Aqidah dars. That what? As an abstract point, we have to believe. It's part of our deen. We have to believe that what? There's somewhere or another in this world where there's a struggle in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone is conducting it. And that person we invoke, we make dua every Jum'ah that Allah ta'ala give them from His help. And that we wish to support them. And whoever supports those people, it's an act of piety. This doesn't mean whatever whack job, like group running around in the backwoods of like Syria and Iraq that like is killing everybody and claiming that they're doing jihad is actually doing jihad. And whatever questions about this country and that country, don't even bother asking them because I'm not going to answer it right now. The Aqidah is what? That it's happening somewhere or another. Don't have so much Stockholm syndrome that it's like, no, Islam, all these people said that, oh, Muslims are terrorists. No, we're not terrorists. It's haram to fight in Islam. Yeah, it's haram to fight for no reason. It's haram to fight like in oppression. But when there's a just cause, it's not only not haram, it's one of the highest acts of piety that a person should leave their home with their own wealth and with their own life, putting both of them at risk in order to establish God's justice in the world, or in order to defend the helpless in the world against their oppressors. There was a time the Muslims used to take this very seriously. In those days, then things like what's happening in Burma and in Turkestan, in the west of China, and all of these different, those crazy things that break the heart and boggle the mind, they didn't used to happen in those days. Why? Because the Muslims used to take this very seriously. Now people are watching Netflix, so the entire world has looked at the Muslim Ummah as like the Craigslist for free section. People take what they want, and the people of Iman suffer. Allah Ta'ala help them and raise from amongst this Ummah a group of people who takes this seriously and will stand to protect those people that have nobody to help them. So he said that Hajj and Jihad will be a standing obligation on the Ummah under the auspices of the sovereign authorities of the Muslims, whether they're pious or whether they are impious. And this will be the state until the Day of Judgment. They are not invalidated by anything, nor will anything negate them. وَنُؤْمِنُ بِالْكِرَامِ الْكَاتِبِينَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ جَعَلَهُمْ عَلَيْنَا حَافِظِينَ. And we believe in the noble angelic scribes that write the commandment of the Lord, and Allah Ta'ala made them protectors over us, meaning that everybody has angels that come with them. Some of them write your deeds, some of them are other angels just done that. And because the presence of those angels that are there with every believer, this protects them from shaitan completely messing with you. This is one of the reasons, by the way, why is it that the ulama tell you eat halal, eat halal, eat halal? There's probably a masjid somewhere or another in Toronto where they say, but say Bismillah, it's all halal. Why? Why? Is it because the Maulvis from Pakistan and India just don't like having fun? They just want to ruin everyone's fun. Is that it? There's some people that's what they think. This is the deen of Allah Ta'ala. Those that shaitan has access to you through what? The angels will leave. When there's haram in you, the angels will leave. The angels that protect you, they'll leave you. When you walk into a bar or a casino or somewhere haram is happening, the angels are not going to come with you, they're going to leave. When you have najasa on you and in you, the angels will leave. When you commit zina, the angels will leave. When there is any sort of haram or filth or pollution, the angels don't like that, they'll leave. They're not obliged to protect you anymore. On the flip side, when you have wudu, when you're in the masjid, when you have itar, wearing perfume, it's a sunnah. It's not as hard as praying, like tahajjud all night. And you actually smell nice. Your wife will like you more. Right? The angels like these things. They'll stay with you. Right? You read the Quran, the angels will gather around you. You sit in a halaqah of zikr, the angels will gather in that place, and the gathering will go vertically all the way up into the heavens. You think shaitan is going to come into your ear and whisper like you should kill your neighbor and eat him? You think I'm joking? People do stuff like that. They don't come up with that on their own. Shaitan gets into them and messes with them. So this is what he says. He says that the angels, they're not just writing down your deeds, but their presence protects you from the shaitan getting in your head. On the flip side, there are people who eat haram and they drink haram and they watch haram and they listen to haram and they touch haram and they sit in haram, and then when they have children, you're like, wow, man, this kid, there's something about him makes me think that mommy and daddy were like eating machine slaughtered chicken 9 months before he was born. You know what I mean? You can see that effect is real. It happens. There are people walking around with that in them. Allah protect us. Allah Ta'ala protect us. This is why, mashallah, you have some concern about these things. These are the adab we learned from the angels. If you want to live like an animal eats whatever it wants to. The gorilla will pick up like its own feces and eat it. The zoologists, they call it eating hot lunch. It's kind of disgusting, isn't it, right? If you want to live like that, go for it. You'll survive. Who knows? Maybe there's some research that it's good for you and antioxidants, or I don't know. You know, I don't know, right? But these are the adab of the angels. You can be like the gorilla if you want to, but don't expect any of the anwar then. وَنُؤْمِنُ بِمَلَكِ الْمَوْتِ الْمُوَكَّلِ بِقَبْضِ أَرْوَاحِ الْعَالَمِينَ. And we believe in the angel of death that Allah Ta'ala has entrusted with taking the souls of living things when they die. And the angel of death, it comes in a weak hadith, and in the Israeliyat that his name is Azra'il. Some people make a big deal out of it, so it's not Sahih hadith. Okay, yaar, whatever, rose by any other name will taste as sweet. You know, if the angel of death comes to you, whether his name is Azra'il or not, you're still going to die. So that's the point, is the Aqidah part of it, is that his name, he's referred to in the Quran as the angel of death, as Malakul Maut. And as far as the Banu Israel, their traditions, Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Hadithu an Bani Israel wala haraj." You can tell the knowledge that you know about the deen from Banu Israel, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's three categories of things that we hear from them. Those things that are in accordance to our deen, which we accept, because we accepted them anyway. Those things that are against our deen, which we reject, because we rejected them anyway. Like when the Christians say, Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, buddy, you can back up now, right? And the Yahud say that, like whatever, saying that Yaqub had a wrestling match with Allah Ta'ala and he won. It's like, okay, whatever. That's good, like let's hold hands, sing kumbaya, have our thing and go now. This usefulness of this gathering is done now. So then there are those things that are in the middle, right? There's someone named Samson and he, he slew people with the jawbone of a donkey and he this and that. Allahu alam, like, okay, it's fine. If there's benefit in telling those stories, you can tell them. And when someone tells them and when someone hears them, we say, I don't 100% believe in it and I don't 100% believe it's wrong. If there's some benefit in telling the story, you can take that benefit. There's nothing wrong with that. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. وبعذاب القبر لمن كان له أهلا وسؤال منكر ونكير في قبره عن ربه ودينه ونبيه صلى الله عليه وسلم على ما جاءت به الأخبار عن رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام وعن الصحابة رضي الله عنهم أجمعين والقبر روضة من رياض الجنة أو حفرة من حفر النار. So we believe in the torment of the grave for the one who deserves it, and the questioning of Munkar and Nakir in the grave about a person's Lord and his religion and his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as was narrated by the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and through the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and that the grave is going to either be a garden from the gardens of paradise or a fire pit from the pits of the hellfire. A person, when they die, the angel of death will come to them in a form commensurate with how they lived. Allah Ta'ala commands the angel of death to treat people based on how they lived. So if you're a good person, when you're dying, the angel of death will come to you in a comforting form. So when people are dying, sometimes someone sees, I see my grandma, someone says, I see my father, someone says, I see this, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jailani or whatever. You see it's a comforting form, right? It's not actually Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jailani who's coming to take your soul. Rather, Allah Ta'ala commanded the angel of death to come to you in the form that calms you down, that makes you happy if you're a person of Iman. And the person who dies on kufr, the angel of death comes to them in terrifying, horrifying form that scares the daylights out of them, and literally scares them to death. And then in between is in between. And so the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith that the death of a believer is like pulling hair out of dough. I mean, it's real soft, smooth. Whereas the death of a kafir is like dragging a silk handkerchief over thorns. What will happen to the handkerchief? Silk is so delicate. What will happen? It will rip into threads. It will literally rip into a thread. It will shred it. It will destroy it. And so what happens when the person dies, the spirit is removed from the body. And then that person will stay in this state until their body is buried. Now someone may ask, well, not everybody's buried, someone's cremated, somebody's plane crashes into the ocean, someone this, that. For the purposes of Aqidah, bury and grave, what do they mean? There's wherever the body comes to rest. Even if it's in a million pieces in a billion different places, what will happen is that the world that your experience goes to, it's called the barzakh once you die, once the soul and the body are separate. And the barzakh is different. This barzakh is kind of like, even if your body is cut into a million pieces, it's like a conference call. You could be in a million different places, but you're all in one place at the same time. you experience as at being in one meeting, right? Conference call, someone's in New York, someone's in London, someone's in Hong Kong, someone's in Ajax. You experience it all like as being in one place though, right? So that's how it will be. So that person is, there's a lot of hadith about the grave. And so like if you put a webcam in someone's grave, you're not going to actually see munkar and nakir, and you're not going to see these things happening. A, you're weird and sick. And B, you're not going to see it happening because that's not experienced in this world, it's experienced in the barzakh. The barzakh occupies physically the same space as this world, but you cannot sense what's beyond it, whereas what's beyond it can sense what's over here. So in the barzakh, that person, when they are put into their grave, meaning wherever the body comes to rest, however it comes to rest, someone's in a cremated, someone, God knows, whatever it is, wherever it comes to its final resting place, wherever and however many places that may be in, then that person will experience, being a whole person, they'll experience these two angels, munkar and nakir, which literally mean the unknown one and the really unknown one. There'll be two strangers, and a person will know these people are not here to give you high five. They mean business. This is a very serious occasion, somber occasion. It will be scary. You will know these people mean business. These are not dudes you're gonna like think you can joke around with. So the two of them will come, and they'll sit you up. You'll feel being sat up, and you'll be asked 3 questions. Who is your Lord? What is your deen? And you'll be shown the Prophet ﷺ and say, what do you say about this person? And then the person who is a believer will answer correctly. The person who is a disbeliever will answer incorrectly. The Prophet ﷺ said that the person who's a munafiq, the person who is a hypocrite, they'll say, I don't know, I just used to say what other people used to say. Which is wrong answer. So if a person answers correctly those 3 questions, what will happen is the angels will open a window into the hellfire, show them a window into the hellfire, and say, this is the place Allah had created for you in Jahannam, but because you did good in this life, Allah Ta'ala has replaced it for you with a place in Jannah. And then at that place, the person will experience the blessings of Allah Ta'ala that are commensurate with what their rank was in this life. They'll feel the grave expand. I mean, it's not like the actual grave will expand, but they'll feel this in the barzakh, that the grave is expanded. And Allah Ta'ala will give them some honor based on how good they were. Some people will be able to leave their grave and visit the spirits of their relatives, and they'll be able to visit the spirits of the mashayikh. They'll visit the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the anbiya alayhim. They'll have some honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of their iman. This is very important. Many fanatical preachers have made a career for themselves by scaring the daylights out of people with regards to death. And people should fear a bad death, but a believer should not fear death. Death, there's nobody who dies on iman except for what's in front of him is better than what's behind him. Nobody ever wants to go back. Except for the shaheed. The shaheed is the one who sees how insignificant their life was and how much Allah Ta'ala gave them in reward. They wish they could go back and cash in that transaction again and again and again. And so there's a book, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahimahullah ta'ala wrote a book called, I think it's Ishq-e Watan, Shauq-e Watan, something like that, right? The love of the homeland, right? Because what's the homeland of Muslims? It's not Somalia and Pakistan. It's Jannah. That's where we're from. We're not from here. There's no ecosystem in which we could survive. The animals survive the winter. If you put us out in the winter for like 2 hours, we'll die. We're not from here. We're illegal immigrants and we're going to get deported. Yeah. Muslims kind of understand that a little bit because, the immigration thing. Anyway, so right, we're going to get deported. And so where's the homeland? It's Jannah. That's a good deportation. So what happens is that Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi wrote this book about the honor Allah gives to a person who dies on iman. All the different hadiths that describe that. And it's been translated into English. It's not the best English. It's not like White Thread Press or whatever Fons Vitae Ghazali series from Cambridge or nothing. But I mean, the English is understandable. It's not like the bad, some English translations for the books of the subcontinent are really a crime. It's not like that. It's understandable. It's decent English. It's called Desire for the Akhirah. You can download the PDF for free. It's a good book for someone who lost a loved one or someone who's grieving the loss of a loved one who died on iman. It's a good book. It's a good book to read anyway, right? So it describes these things a little bit more in detail. The person who answered the questions incorrectly, that person, the angels will open a window into the hellfire, and say, this is the place Allah made for you, or into the Jannah. And the angels will say, this is the place Allah made for you in Jannah, and you blew it. So instead you're going to go to a place in the hellfire. At that point they will feel, in the barzakh, they will feel the sensation of the grave collapsing on them to the point where their ribs will collapse in on each other. The Prophet ﷺ says, he used the verb ishtabaka, that the ribs will they'll collapse into each other. And then the angels will torment that person. They'll come with bars of iron and beat them. And their screams will be heard by Allah's creation and not by the ins and the jinn. Rasulullah ﷺ said, if you could hear their screams, human beings would stop burying their dead. They would just let the corpses rot on over ground out of fear of hearing those screams again. And this is the meaning of the qawl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسَ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. That the people in Jannah, once everyone who makes it to Jannah, the final person comes in, the angels will make an announcement. If you see any places in Jannah that the claims are unstaked, then you can go stake your claim and take it, because whoever is going to come here is going to come here. It's as if those people who didn't make it to Jannah, they're like dead now and you get their inheritance. Those are the inheritors that inherit Al-Firdaus, and they will be therein forever. Allah Ta'ala make us from them, and Allah protect us from being the ones who go or see the hellfire, much less stay there forever. So the Tahawi rahimahullah Ta'ala, he summarizes this this point by saying that, by recapitulating actually a hadith, which is that the grave will either be a garden from the gardens of paradise, or a fire pit from the flaming pits of the hellfire. وَنُؤْمِنُ بِالْبَعْثِ وَجَزَاءِ الْأَعْمَالِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَالْعَرْضِ وَالْحِسَابِ وَقِرَاءَةِ الْكِتَابِ وَالثَّوَابِ وَالْعِقَابِ وَالصِّرَاطِ وَالْمِيزَانِ. And we believe in the bodily resurrection. Right? Mu'tazila always, why do you have to be so lame? Say, oh, resurrection will be period. No, the resurrection will be physical. The resurrection will be physical. How else could it be? The ruh and the body, they're buddies. The ruh doesn't have fun without the body. Body doesn't have fun. With body without the ruh literally rots and turns into disgusting rot. And the ruh doesn't have fun without the body. How could it have fun? It can't do anything, right? So they get back, the band gets back together again, right? Yawm al-Qiyamah, this is the big gig. It's going to last forever. Why? What's the hikmah in it? Because if Allah wants to punish somebody, that person, their punishment will only truly be complete when both the ruh and the body are being punished together. Right? The fire is described as التي تطلع على الأفئدة. That it burns so badly, it burns all the way to the heart. Meaning not only the body will suffer, the spirit will suffer as well. And on the flip side, there's certain things in Jannah that a person will enjoy that, if you had a body you enjoyed in this dunya, you'll enjoy over there as well. Come on, I'm talking about food and drinks and stuff. What are you guys thinking about, right? وَأُتُبِهِ مُتَشَابِهَا وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ. Well, I'm kind of talking about both. وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. That there'll be وَأُتُبِهِ مُتَشَابِهَا. You'll eat an apple, you'll be like, man, this is like the same apple I used to buy from Superstore. Then you'll taste it, you'll be like, this is not like the apple from Superstore. If you don't have a body, how are you going to enjoy those things? Your ruh can't eat an apple. Right? And in fact, it comes in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the bodies will be even bigger. Your body will be 70 cubits long. Cubit is from the tip of your finger until the tip of your elbow. Why? Because the more body there is, the more to enjoy. Don't think about it too much. You're in the masjid now. Okay? The more to enjoy. And the more body, a'udhu billah, Allah protect us, the more torment, the more torture as well. So we believe in the physical resurrection, and on the day of judgment, Allah Ta'ala recompense people for their deeds. Meaning what? Okay, you said, well, Allah is going to recompense people for their deeds. Didn't you say everyone's going to Jannah because of Allah's fadl? Yes. Getting to Jannah is Allah's fadl, but the ranks in Jannah will be according to your deeds. Whenever I say people go to Jannah by Allah's grace, people are like, well, that sounds like what Christians say. First of all, if Christians say something right, then that doesn't make it wrong. Okay? Secondly, what they say is you just go by God's grace and your deeds mean nothing. In terms of the akhirah, they don't really mean much. And that's why they're not motivated to do a whole lot of good deeds, and they're not deterred from doing sin. Whereas once you make it to Jannah, Jannah has ranks. And your rank in Jannah will be according to your good deeds. So your good deeds have meaning. If you say one more subhanallah than another person does, and every other way your deeds are the same, his rank will be eternally higher than your rank. And you will never be able to catch up to it. Why? Because this is Allah Ta'ala, Inna Allaha la yudhi'u ajra al-muhsinina. Allah Ta'ala doesn't ever waste the reward of those people who made ihsan in their deen, who did good, who made their deen beautiful. So we believe in the recompense of deeds on the Day of Judgment, and we believe in the arraying of all of God's creation that bears witness to the Day of Judgment, and that there will be accounting, and that you will be given an audit book of your deeds, which will be read out in front of the creation, and that good things will be rewarded, and that bad things will be punished, and that afterward there's the place of judgment. Between that and between Jannah, there's a great chasm, even grander Grand Canyon. And there's a bridge across that chasm called the Sirat. Now Allah Ta'ala it comes in the Quran that He will resurrect the kuffar blind. يَقُولُ رَبِّ لِمَ حَشَرْتَنِي أَعْمَى وَقَدْ كُنْتُ بَصِيرًا قَالَ كَذَلِكَ أَتَتْكَ آيَاتُنَا فَنَسِيتَهَا وَكَذَلِكَ الْيَوْمَ تُنْسَى. That right? I said it right? So the person who is kafir in this world will be raised blind. They can't see anything. And they'll say, my Lord, why did you resurrect me as blind even though I used to have sight in the life of the world? Allah Ta'ala says, just like you ignored my signs when they came to you, just like that, this day you'll be ignored. Now tell me, the Sirat is a bridge, right? From the place of judgment to to Jannah, and there's no rails on the side of it. And so a blind man, are they going to make it across? Absolutely not. They're going to fall down. They're not even going to make it. The people of Iman will cross the Sirat. Some of them will fall because of their deeds. Their deeds will come in a form, and they'll catch up with them. The most dangerous deed on the Sirat that's going to hoodwink you is what? That's going to hijack you, going to jack you is what? If you did something bad to another person, caused them to go to the hellfire. Meaning what? Like some things, like for example, you have a bad divorce and you're just particularly mean to your spouse. Or you were particularly like a big bully to other people, or you treated people like garbage, your employees, your servants, your slaves, your whatever, right? And what happens, sometimes you treat someone badly, and that's itself a deed, and that causes that person to mentally spin out of control. And then they do a bunch of other dumb stuff which you didn't do yourself. They did it. But you helped push them over the ledge in order to lose their control of themselves. And because of that, they go to the hellfire. Guess who's going to drag you down with them on the way down? Guess who's going to grab you by the ankle and pull you? This is why it's part of the most basic understanding of deen, which is what? If we make it together. Right? Like shafa'ah and all. If we make it together. And if one of us goes down, you should be afraid they're going to take you down with them. So whoever it is, if you made some trauma or difficulty, behave badly with somebody during your life, you did something like that to them, make it up to them while you still can. If that person has passed, or if bringing it up will just make it worse, or if you can't do anything at all, just keep making dua for them. Always make dua for them. Keep making dua, give sadaqah in their name, do as much good as you can. I mean, obviously the person's there, go talk to them and try to make them happy again. Make yourself into a doormat. Let them cuss you out. Let them say bad about you. Let them just humble yourself and just take it and then say, what can I do to make it better? And make it better help them up. Because if they make it, they'll also bring you to Jannah with them. If they fall down, guess who they're going to reach for first? This is a reality. This is the haqq. I mean, these things are mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the way the sirat is going to be. Now imagine a person did good by everybody. Then the people will pass the sirat according to their deeds. So the Prophet ﷺ said some people will pass the sirat like lightning. Some people will pass like the wind flying. Some people will pass running. Some people will pass walking. Some people, they'll crawl. It will be very bitter. This is a reflection of how good you were in this world. If you did the bare minimum, you'll cross bare minimum. And if you did ihsan, you'll cross with ihsan. That's why people who are trying to do bare minimum of Islam, that's not what we should be shooting for. It's better than nothing, but it's not what we should be shooting for. Wal mizan, and we believe in the mizan, that there will be a scale pan in which deeds are weighed. Now what's the hikmah of weighing deeds? Because weight is an intrinsic quality, you can't visually assess it. So there may be something that seems like a very small deed, but it's very heavy. There may be something that, look, so-and-so gave $1 million in the fundraiser or whatever, and raised their hand and showed off, and because of their showing off, that deed has no weight with Allah Ta'ala whatsoever. What do you think Allah Ta'ala is impressed with $1 million? He created the heavens and the earth from nothing. It means nothing to Him. What does He love though? He loves the ikhlas. The weight of the deeds on that day is your ikhlas, your sincerity. This is why there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that don't ever speak ill of my companions, because if you were to give the mountain of Uhud in sadaqah, in gold, that's so much gold, it would destabilize the price of gold in world markets for a century. If you were to give the mountain of Uhud in gold, it wouldn't mean to Allah Ta'ala the mud, the volume of the two cupped Mubarak hands of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that mud of grain that they gave, or even half of it. That meant more to Allah Ta'ala than the mountain of Uhud in gold from one of us. Why? Because of their sincerity. And so that there will be a mizan. Okay, now the Mu'tazila are like, oh no, there's not a mizan. This is just a metaphor for God's justice. Why? Who told you metaphor for God's justice? Why you gotta always cut in? Why do you always gotta butt in? Why do you gotta be the hadi and the kebab of like Aqidah, man? Why you gotta do that? You gotta be like you bite into like a burger and there's a bone in it. Like, why you gotta do that? And so Allah Ta'ala says, right, وَنَضَعُ الْمَوَازِينَ الْقِسْطَ لِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Allah says, the Quran says that there's going to be mawazin, there's going to be scales. And man thaqulat mawazinuhu, right? I mean, man khaffat mawazinuhu. These expressions are used in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala doesn't need scales. Allah Ta'ala doesn't need you and me either, but He created us, didn't He? Why you got to go there? If you show up Yawm al-Qiyamah and you find out it's a metaphor for His justice, okay, that's cool. Why you got to stick your foot in the door and get it slammed? No, there's going to be scale pans in the Day of Judgment, and the hadith is very, very clear about that. In fact, does anyone here remember what the last hadith of Sahih Bukhari is? Kalimatani خفيفتان على اللسان ثقيلتان في الميزان حبيبتان إلى الرحمن سبحان الله بحمده سبحان الله العظيم. Why did Bukhari, because this is from the uslub, the literary style of the Arabs, that the first thing you mention, the last thing you mention, they should be important. They should have special importance, right? Why is it that he gave this hadith at the end of his book? To shank that Mu'tazila on the way out, man. Just to be like, we follow the Prophet ﷺ, you to hell with your logic and rationality. Not with all logic and rationality, but your rationality that you're trying to stick on top of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That's not how we roll. So he's sending a message on the way out. This is the reason this hadith is the last hadith. So we believe in the mizan. And so Tahawi also, he's like, yeah, Mu'tazila, we don't believe that. There is going to be a mizan on the Day of Judgment. Why? Because Allah and His Messenger ﷺ said so. وَالْجَنَّةُ وَالنَّارُ مَخْلُوقَتَانِ لَا تَفْنَيَانِ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَبِيدَانِ. The Jannah and the hellfire were created. It's not like they existed forever. They're also created things. But they will never be extinguished, nor will they ever cease to exist. They'll be around forever. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ خَلَقَ الْجَنَّةَ وَالنَّارَ قبل الخلق وخلق لهما أهلا فمن شاء منهم إلى الجنة أدخله فضلا منه ومن شاء منهم إلى النار أدخله عدلا منه. And that Allah Most High created Jannah and hellfire before the rest of the creation. Again, when we say before the rest, we mean like in the beginning. It doesn't have to be like exactly the first thing, but from the first things that are created. He created the hellfire and Jannah, and then afterward He created a people that belong to both of them. And so whoever He wishes to, He will dispatch them to Jannah and enter them therein by His grace, and whoever He wishes to, from amongst them, He'll enter into His fire by His justice. وَكُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ لِمَا قَدْ فُرِغَ لَهُ وَالصَّائِرٌ إِلَى مَا قَدْ خُلِقَ لَهُ. Everyone will do the deeds of the thing that they were created for or made free for, and everybody will become the image that they were created for. وَالْخَيْرُ وَالشَّرُّ مُقَدَّرَانِ عَلَى الْعِبَادِ. Khair and shar, when Allah Ta'ala and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam use these terms, khair and shar don't mean like good and evil in a moral sense. They mean good and evil in an experiential sense. Like, is it good to like win $1 million or $1 billion? Yeah, everyone would love that. Is it bad to get hit by a car? Yeah, no one would like to get hit by a car. Well, maybe you win $1 billion and then the money goes to your head and then you like alienate all the people who love you and then you get a bunch of fake friends and they consume all your money and then once you come broke, they leave you as well and then you're a broken man and life's not worth it. That's possible, but still everyone's like, yeah, I'd like $1 billion. Why? It's khair, it's the type of khair. In shar, maybe you get hit by a car and it forces you to reassess your priorities in life and you turn your life around for the better and you become this just really amazing person. Yeah, that's possible, but nobody wants to get hit by a car. It's shar, right? So that both the khair and shar, those things, the hulu and the mur, the sweet and bitter experiences of life, they're all measured and meted out to the slaves by Allah Ta'ala. Well, so this is somewhat of an abstruse point. It's kind of the most abstruse point of the entire Tahawiyyah. So try to listen carefully, inshallah. والاستطاعة التي يجب بها الفعل من نحو التوفيق الذي لا يجوز أن يوصف المخلوق بها تكون مع الفعل. أما الاستطاعة من جهة الصحة والوسع والتمكن وسلامة الآلات فهي قبل الفعل وبها يتعلق الخطاب وهو كما قال الله تعالى لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. So when you ask the question, is a person able to do something, right? Remember we talked about there are two realities. They coexist with one another. One is definitely higher than the other in terms of its profoundness and depth, but they both exist at the same time. One is that Allah Ta'ala knows everything before it happens. He's the one who allows it to happen. He's the one who, it won't happen except for He allows it to happen. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا إِن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Nothing, you don't even desire anything except for Allah desires it for you. That's one reality. The other reality is generally stuff you want to do, you do it and it happens, right? And it's intuitive to you why you bear some responsibility for the deeds that you choose for yourself. Not just to you, to animals as well, right? When you throw a rock at a dog, is the dog going to get angry at you or at the rock? You. Because even the dog itself knows the intention came from you, not from the rock. This is something even the animals understand. Both of these things are true at the same time. It's a bid'ah to say one is true and the other one isn't. So, the question of ability also has two sides of that coin. So he says the side of ability, which is necessary in order for an action to happen, in terms of like the divine tawfiq, like Allah allowing it to happen and things like that. That ability, when you talk about ability in that sense, it's haram to describe the creation as having that ability. And that ability, it will be manifest simultaneously with the deed. You want to do it and Allah allows you to do it, that's when it happens. Allah allowing you to do it, that's when it happens. That's not what you're going to be judged about. Rather, you'll be judged based on your ability in terms of the deed. You know, do you have enough health to do the deed? Do you have enough means to do the deed? Are you in a position to do the deed? The means the instruments that you need in order to do the deed. Like, you know, if you know, you're going to go to Hajj, do you have a boat or a car or legs or, you know, to make it there? You know, you can say, I walked all the way to like Nova Scotia and then I can't swim. So Allah is not going to say you were able to go to Hajj and you didn't and hold you responsible for that, right? So the ability that you're responsible for has to do with those things that are prerequisite to the deed, and the evaluation of whether you have the ability to do that deed or not, it happens before that deed happens. You're not going to be asked, how come you didn't have tawfiq? Why? Because that's not your decision, it's Allah's decision. You're going to be asked, in the material world, were the pieces in place for you to be able to do that deed? And so he says that وَبِهَا يَتَعَلَّقُ الْخِطَابِ. The latter definition of ability which precedes the act in terms of the health and the means and the tools and instruments needed to effect it. That's the ability that your moral responsibility in front of Allah Ta'ala is going to be based on. And that's the ability that Allah Ta'ala is talking about when He said, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah Ta'ala does not burden a soul more than it can bear. When's the adhan of Maghrib? 42? Okay. وَأَفْعَالُ الْعِبَادِ هِيَ خَلْقُ اللَّهِ وَكَسْبٌ لِلْعِبَادِ. This is a very beautifully stated point. He says that the deeds of the creation or the deeds of the slaves are the creation of Allah and the earnings of the slave. So the example I give is what? Like imagine like there's like a kid, like a little kid, like 5-year-old kid. Okay? So you say, okay, little kid, your parents are going to go out of town for a long time. Okay? So we're going to take you to the grocery store and take you through all the aisles. You pick what you want to eat for that, like whatever week that they're going to be gone. Okay? So one kid is very sensible, so they'll grab some vegetables and some meat and some potatoes and some, pasta and some spices and some this and that. And when they get home, they have like different things to eat. And some kid's like, no, I just want chocolate. And so he just ransacks the candy aisle and chocolate aisle, right? So what happens? The parent goes and takes the cart to check out and pays for everything. And then the kid is stuck in the house with just that. Your deeds are like that. Allah Ta'ala is the one who's making it all happen, but you're seeing everything. You're like, oh cool, salat and Quran and zikr and like tarawih and blah, blah, blah. And you're like putting it all in your cart. And someone else is like, amazing, drugs, zina, this and that. And they're filling their cart with that. And some people fill it with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? At the end, that's what you're stuck with. What is he saying? He says that the deeds of the slave are the creation of Allah and the earning of the slave. So that's what comes into you into your grave. That's what you have to live with forever. Allah is the one who made it happen. He's the one who paid for it. He's the one who created it. He's the one who allowed it to happen. But because you chose it for yourself, that choice that you make, that's what you're morally responsible for, and that's what you have to abide by forever. لَمْ يُكَلِّفْهُمُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا مَا يُطِيقُونَ وَلَا يُطِيقُونَ إِلَّا مَا كَلَّفَهُم. Allah Ta'ala did not burden them except for with that which they can bear, and He did not give them the strength to bear anything except for that which He burdened them with. وَهُوَ حَاصِلُ تَفْسِيرِ لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And this is a summary of the explanation of لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Nowadays, لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ means what? It means, oh my God, that's horrible. But that's not what it actually means. Right? La hawla means what? He says it means لا حيلة لأحد ولا حركة لأحد ولا تحول لأحد عن معصية الله إلا بمعونة الله. La hawla means what? That there is no trick you can do, nor any movement you can do, nor any switching you can do that will allow you to escape Allah's disobedience except for through His help. His help is the only thing that will allow you to avoid sin. And la quwwata means what? وَلَا قُوَّةَ لِأَحَدٍ عَلَىٰ إِقَامَةِ طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ وَالثَّبَاتِ عَلَيْهَا إِلَّا بِتَوْفِيقِ اللَّهِ. That there's no way that you're going to be able to obey Allah Ta'ala and do good deeds and be firm therein, except for by Him allowing you to do so. So la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is invoking Allah's help in doing good deeds and avoiding bad ones. So the actions are created by Allah Ta'ala and they're the earnings of the slave. The slave says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, asking Allah, please create good things for me, don't create bad things for me, and help me to choose the good and not choose the bad.